Welcome to Ham Radio Adventures 11, the Silent Key Project, in memory of NQ4Q. I'm Mark, K3MHW. Thanks for watching.
Soundstripe. Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ham Radio Adventures number 11. This will be a special episode. I'll explain that in a minute. My name is Mark. I am K3MHW, Kilo 3, Mike Hotel Whiskey, and thanks for watching. You saw a picture just before this video of a memorial for a man named John Wilmoth. John Wilmoth was a dear friend to our radio club, K3WRG. K3WRG, you can go to k3wrg.com. K3WRG has about 60 members. We're extremely active, do a lot of field days, POTA, antenna builds. We've had the gang over my place helping me with my tower. I have videos on that. Again, it's Ham Radio Adventures. So John unfortunately became a silent key last year. And John was a very special person. He was a U.S. Air Force veteran. He was an engineer for Ma Bell, if you remember that name, which became AT&T. And most of all, he was one of the nicest people I ever met. Always helpful, always there for when anybody needed help. He was a big CW guy, just loved doing CW. And he just wouldn't refuse helping anybody in the club that needed it or researching it for them. So I thought I'd do this special episode, and here's why. When John passed, a member of the club knew his daughter, Mary Lou. And Mary Lou approached this member and said, "Hey, I don't know what to do with this stuff, just the radio stuff, just come and get it out of the house." So what happened was the member, Dave Holloway, went over, looked over all the equipment. Most of the radios came to my place, and over a period of 2 or 3 weeks, I went through all of them, did any necessary repairs, and made sure they were working okay. One of the things that was in his collection was this Kenwood TS2000. The Kenwood TS2000 covers 160 meters through 70 centimeters. So I thought it would be a good idea to use this for the club. Getting back to John and his family, she wanted to make sure that if the equipment could be used for the purposes of amateur radio, that it was done that way in honor of John. She really wasn't interested in money we could get for it, although we did get her a few bucks. And we ended up, some of the members got some of the equipment. And I came up with an idea I proposed to the club. Hey, why don't we take the TS2000, the speaker, the tuner, and the power supply, and build it into a 19-inch rack portable. And to my surprise, well, maybe not my surprise, because the club's a great club, it was voted unanimously that they would buy the box and I would put it together. And I have various parts that I'll use putting it together that you'll see in the video that I already have that I'll donate to the club. So the box arrived the other night. I unpacked it, set it up on the bench, and did some testing for fit. So the following video will be an introduction to the box and what we're doing with it. And I want to thank Mary Lou in memory of John. This box will have a memorial sticker on it in John's name, and this will be used extensively for field remotes, POTA. We're going to put this thing to good use, thanks to John. The other thing is that sometimes we need emergency equipment. As an example, in 2020, right behind the garage I'm sitting in, my workbench, a tree was directly hit by lightning, went through the ground, and took out every TV, every stereo, every Wi-Fi, all the Ethernet cable. It was a mess. It was $8,000 worth of repair. It took about 6 to 8 weeks to get it done. But my point is, I had no equipment. So in an emergency, we could always loan this box to a club member to use, or somebody new that wants to get on the air, wants to practice a little bit before he buys his own equipment. So without further ado, let me get to the box and its construction and where we got it, which was Amazon, but I'll explain the manufacturer. And I'll show you how we're going to mount this thing in the box and make it movable, so while we're carting it around, the radios don't slide around. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. So this box is a 19-inch rack box, as I told you, and it's made by a company called SoundTown. And this is 8-unit high box, 8-unit high, which is perfect for this. There's even a little space left over. And I had some 19-inch rack trays laying around. So when I opened the box last night, I kind of practiced a little bit and put the equipment in it, just laid it on the rack shelves, just to see if everything fit. And I'll edit a picture in of what that looked like. But here's one of the rack trays, and this is what it looked like originally. Let's see if I can put that up there. It had these sides for support, and the problem is the TS2000 with the speaker or power supply or anything next to it was a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch too wide to fit. So what I did was I took the second rack I had and I cut those plates out. Now that created another minor issue, and I'll place this rack in place. And the minor issue was it took some of the support strength out of it. So what I did was, the space between the top of this rack and the bottom of the box is exactly 3/4 of an inch. So I cut a couple pieces of good hardwood, painted them black, and they're going to be underneath here, supporting it along with the screws that hold it in. You also notice that there's this threaded rod, and what this threaded rod is for, and you may have seen them in other videos of people that put boxes inside of a portable unit. This is number 10 threaded rod, 3 foot long. I got it at Home Depot for about $6. And what I did was I cut it to the proper height, and let me show you what it does. When I put this in and the radio next to it, I'm going to have a flange made that goes on top of both units. It'll be shaped like a, probably like a Z. And then I can tighten down some nylon nuts so they don't slip during transportation. I'll tighten them down and it'll hold both radios down in place. So during transportation, they don't start wiggling around. The speaker is very light and can move easily. I'll take care of that. The radio is pretty heavy, but I don't want it to move and get damaged. So they'll be tied down into this rack plate. Move this out of the way. The tuner and the power supply are going to go up top in the heavier rack that I didn't cut, which is right here. It'll have, actually that's the one I did cut. So this one will be mounted up here with a spacer bar in between. Once I get those mounted, which shouldn't take too long, I'll do a video of it and show you what it looks like. And then I'll show you the back of the unit, because the back of the unit is going to require some work. The TS2000 has 2 antenna inputs for HF, an antenna input for UHF, and antenna input for 2 meters. So I'm going to run those, going to make LMR 240 jumper cables to a plate in the back of the unit. And again, I'll show you that and the process of being made and when it's done. And it'll have 2 feed-through PL259 type connectors, SO239. They'll feed through, and then we can attach the antennas easily externally to the back of the box. Now, this box, pardon me, I got the cover, has covers for both sides. So what'll happen is when the unit is ready to transport, we'll be able to put these on, lock them tight, and there's space, and there's about 3 inches of space from where the radio goes to the front of the box and 3 inches from the very back of the box. So it's a very, very sturdy way to carry. It's got great wheels on it. The casters are very, very heavy duty, and they lock. That's unlocked, that's locked. And if we turn it a little bit, let me get this out of the way. And if we turn it a little bit on its side, you could see that the manufacturer is Soundtown. And it's got these handles, got 2 handles on each side, 4 handles altogether. So we'll be able to carry it around, place it up on a table, lock the wheels, and it won't go anywhere. I'm getting ready now to mount the bottom plate, and I wanted to show you the wood blocks I put in to take up the space that's between the bottom of the box and the bottom of the support rack. If I turn it over, those are the wood pieces, one on the back and one on the front, and they're not painted on the bottom. They don't have to be, but they're black painted, and you won't see them once they're in there. And actually, I'm going to put it in place. And the holes line up perfectly. And now there's plenty of support. It doesn't have the flimsiness because I took the sides off of it. So we'll go from there. And here's a shot with the radio and the speaker mounted. Everything fits well. And the next project is to make the bar that's going to hold down the radios in place. And I think the other thing I'll do, if you can see it here, there's this wire leg on the bottom of the TS2000, and I think I'm going to put a clamp on each one of them. So it'll be held in the front, because again, it's a very heavy radio, and then there'll be a piece put in the back that'll come down, probably halfway from the speaker. Let me see if I can use this as a pointer. I can go from about here on the box. There'll be a bracket that goes with a hole in it that goes through the threaded rod, bends, and then holds this radio in place. And I think that'll work out very nicely. Now for the back of the box, I wanted a way to neatly get the antenna feeds into the radio, from the radio. So I created this panel. I wasn't going to bore you with me drilling it, but it's pre-drilled. This is the 70 centimeter connector, goes through the panel. And what I'll be doing is I'll be adding the other SO239s for the panel mount, and we'll be able to mount this up here, and I'll have a nice neat feed for the antennas. One other thing I did was I created, everything's going to be grounded. So this is a 3/4 inch copper pipe that I flattened out. It's got places where I can bolt in strapping. I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch braid for all the grounds, and I'll run those neatly. And then I have a hole over here This is going to be for an external ground. All the ground straps will go to this bolt, which is stainless steel, by the way, because you're using copper, and copper and stainless steel get along. Um, and then we'll be able to put a rod in the ground when we're doing field day and be able to ground everything. So this is going to work out very well, and I'll show you the finished product as soon as I get it done here. And through the magic of video editing, here's the completed backboard. This is going to be the 70 centimeter input. This is going to be the 2 meter. Then we have antenna 1, antenna 2 for HF. And the tuner for the Kenwood has a input for a dummy load. So I figured I had the connectors, I'm going to hook it up. So if we want to put a dummy load plugged in here, we can test the radio out. Down here is the ground. We'll put a ground rod in when we do a field day, tighten the nut down around it, and we should be good to go. And then we have a copper plate back here, and it has bolts through it, all stainless steel on the copper. And that's where all the grounds are going to go from each piece of equipment. So all in all, looks pretty good, came out nice. I didn't clean it very well, it's a little dirty there, but I'll take care of that. And there'll be labels on here, weatherproof labels, identifying everything. So there's the finished back plate. Well, just to show you how you have to go back to the drawing board sometimes, I had to make a change. And the change was, I showed you a video earlier of a threaded rod that I was going to put down on the tray on each side and put a bracket holding the radio down. For some reason, I had a second thought about that, and I ended up going to good old Velcro. For $12, I got 24 straps on Amazon. They'll hold about 400 pounds, just about 350 pounds. And I've got the unit strapped down. And in the field, I think that'll be easier than the mount in case we don't have enough tools with us to get to those little nuts, because you need a long socket. Anyway, it's very strong. I can pick it up, shake it around, nothing moves. It'll be locked in. And on top of that, the plate that was on the, because of the side movement, the plate that takes up the space in the rack, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a cutout here that I made, and the cutout fits the top of these with a little rubber bumper on it and holds them firmly in place at the front. So they're notched. It holds this down. I mean, the speaker's very light. The only thing that's heavy is the radio and the power supply, and I'll probably end up double strapping them. But I don't have to worry about vertical movement because this will be on top holding them down. So anyway, I hope you like my change, but it looks like this will work a lot better. So the grounds are all in place now, all the braids. And you can see I've got one here from the power supply, here from the tuner, here from the radio, and here from the speaker. Now the speaker and the power supply had no external ground connection, so I had to put them in. And what's kind of cool is there's a device called a Nutsert, Nutsert, Nutsert. You can look them up on the internet. And I drilled the appropriate hole, and I have a hydraulic compression for it that puts the Nutserts in, and I put an M5 stainless steel bolt on each one. So everything's grounded. Now I could have made these longer and run everything on one run down to the ground plate. The problem is copper wire is expensive, and so I didn't want to waste any more than I had to. So, but this is fine, there's plenty of room. Now what we need to do is make the coax connectors, and that'll be the next video coming up. Now it's time for the final hard work. So I have my bench set up to make my cables. I've got an ohm meter just to make sure there's no shorts, and whenever I put a connector on, I test it to make sure there's no shorts before I put the second connector on. I have this, I was reluctant to buy this at first because it's around $300, but this is one of the best tools I have. I've used it for making so much coax, putting ends on it. These are DX Engineering's LMR 400, 240, RG8, or I mean, just you name it, and it'll do the cable. So my tools are already here. I measured and pre-cut LMR 240, and I made one of the cables. This is the cable that's going to go from the transmitter to the tuner, and that one's already cut and tested for size. No use you watching me make 5 more cables. So I just wanted to show you one finished and the prep. I've also marked them because they're all a little bit different lengths. So I marked them with painter's tape just to make sure I didn't screw up which one was which. And eventually I'll have labels that'll be on the coax and tell people where they go. It's important to have the proper crimp set and the die set. And there's 4 holes here for 2 different size coax. I've got my razor, I've got my pliers just in case, and I have a dummy load. And what I do with the dummy load, when everything is done, tested, and it's not shorted, I'll hook up the dummy load to the cable, put my rig expert on it, and make sure these cables are exactly the way they should be. You'll also notice up on the screen here, you can download this from DX Engineering, or it's all over the web, but it's a chart depending on which connector you have that tells you which die set to use for the particular connector. I'm using Amphenol connectors. I've highlighted it. It's the Amphenol number is 182115, and it shows you which die set to use. So I'll be using, for the crimp, I'll be using the outer one, the larger hole, and for the crimp for the center conductor, I'll be using the outside hole, which is the smaller diameter. Now, I like using crimp coax. I think it's a good solid connection. I don't have to worry about my soldering. And they've always been true to form. All my connectors are these crimp connectors, and I haven't had one fail yet. So I'll get this done. I'll put the cables in the box and show you the finished product, and we're just about at the end here. The back of the box is now finished, except for 2 items I'll tell you about. One is the blank plate, but all the cables are in. Coax looks good, hooked up to all the connectors down here, and the grounds are in, and it's ready to be buttoned up. Now down here, this will be 70 centimeters, 2 meters, HF antenna 1, HF antenna 2, both going to the tuner, and this is for an external dummy load. The tuner has a place on it for a dummy load. Transmitter in, dummy load, antenna 1, antenna 2. So we'll have that all hooked up. The other thing that will be at the top of the box, there'll be a blank plate here, but up here will be an AC outlet strip, because Lord knows you might have to plug in a notebook or something. And I'll show that on the entire finished product at the end of the video. And here's the finished product from the front. Memorial tag for John Wilmoth, magnet for the mic. And now we'll turn it on its side here. Soundtown box. Great company, great box. Really rugged, nice handles to carry. And I think we're good to go there. Here's the rear of the box. You'll notice that at the top I now have an AC strip. What's plugged into it is the power supply. I didn't want to cut the cord and wire it, so we ran it through a grommet and another Memorial sticker. And now we take the back of the box. This is the cover. I made an envelope on the inside, attached it permanently, and put the operation manuals and other paperwork in there, and that way they can travel with the unit. And now the box is entirely closed up and ready to take to field day. We'll spin it around here. And I just want to remind you, Soundtown, you can get them on Amazon, and they're very reasonably priced. So in closing, I'd like to thank Mary Lou and Justin, John Wilna's children, for donating this equipment to the club. It'll be put to good use. We'll keep John's memory alive. And we like him, we miss him, and he was one of the nicest people I ever met, as I said before. So thank you. And thank everyone else for watching Ham Radio Adventures 11. Ham Radio Adventures 12, don't know what it's going to be yet, but it should be out in about 4 or 5 weeks. Thank you, and 73s.